Welcome back to the Castaway Consultants, where we teach future Survivor players how to play the game by criticizing current players. Today, we are talking about Survivor 48, Episode 11, Coconut Etiquette. I'm one of your co-hosts, Josh Wessler, joined today by Derek Kubicek and Ryan Stacy. How are you guys doing tonight?
Hey Josh, would you like a coconut?
No, I won't.
Oh,
I don't
okay.
like I don't like coconuts.
I feel like I'm going to be the only happy one on the podcast tonight. So if you don't want me, I don't want to speak for Josh, but I know where Ryan's going this episode because I've had to sit next to him for the last 90 minutes. And he was great for the first 80, and then the last 10 happened. He's like, "I swear if this happens, I'm going to be so upset." So if you're looking for just pure positivity, this is not the podcast for you tonight. But if you're happy enough with Derek bringing the positivity, then you will be represented on this podcast.
But before I let Ryan go, I was fine with this episode. Was it exciting? No. Do I wish, people made better decisions? Yes. Do I think that there's still takeaways that we can talk about and, set us up for a good, last two episodes maybe of this season? Also, yes. All right, Ryan's turn.
So I hopped on Reddit after the episode ended, and I saw a comment on there in like the episode discussion. One of the funniest things I've ever read, and it said, "This episode could have been an email." 100% true. This was 90 minutes of nothing. We give me 1 minute of this episode, and we get it. This was a waste of my time. Honestly, there's almost no redeeming qualities to this episode. I'm annoyed. I know most of the Survivor community is annoyed. I was pretty cool with this season until last episode. I didn't like last episode. I was like, okay, well, hopefully it'll bounce back this time. Nope, not at all. So I'm bored. I
I,
sleep.
I don't know. I have a little bit of a bone to pick with that, just because, this isn't the results that we're getting right now are not because of production or advantages in the
No,
game or, Jeff, putting his thumb on the game in certain ways.
not for lack of trying.
Not for lack of trying.
Yes, you are correct. But the result that we are getting at the end of the episodes is not because of that. These are decisions that the cast is making.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I will like to mention that, I don't know, a quarter or halfway through the episode, I remember actually thinking, wow, this is cool. Like, we're getting a lot of camp life stuff. And just because they're, and I think Jeff is going to say it at Tribal Council, like, there was a day or so where nothing was going on. So you guys just got to hang out, either sit in your thoughts or go do certain things on, just at the beach. And that was noticeable as a viewer. We saw people go off and do things, which we don't get a lot of in Modern Survivor. And it was just kind of cool to see. And I know that we've talked about that in the past with like our rewind series and like, oh man, this is really refreshing to be able to get a lot more of these moments. So it's a little odd, I guess I would say, that you thought that there's just a whole lot of nothing here.
Well, it would have been, I'd been fine with the camp life stuff if we weren't on a cast with a bunch of idiots who aren't making a move. Like, there's a clear right move, and no one, I think that's the most frustrating thing for me in Survivors, when there's a clear right move for the people on the bottom to make a move and take control of the game, and they don't do it for some dumb reason. And that's what happened tonight. So I'm annoyed. Like, I would love more camp life if the players were competent. That's the most important thing, and they're not at all.
And I'm going to step in to defend Ryan for just 1 second. And it's not the way that anybody thinks that I'm going to defend him, because I think that his takes on this particular viewing are wrong. But this is consistent for Ryan, because depending on where this season ends up, its closest comp is One World and Redemption Island.
Boring.
It is some really strong
I
people at the top
no,
that run the game from beginning to end. Like, I
no.
understand. Like, if you drill down into the details, like, every analogy falls apart. But the vibe it's giving off is like, this is all a foregone conclusion. And why do we have a lot of this stuff in the post-merge? Let's just fast forward to the end.
No, because with both of those seasons, it started to become apparent that one person was going to end up winning the game. This one, yeah, there's, a cluster of people who are running the game, and it's kind of just like, yeah, let's fast forward through a couple of these episodes, especially on the rewatch. It's not going to be great. But, right now, looking forward, we're down to 6 people, and 4 of them potentially even 5, could be the winner of this season, and you have no idea.
The reason I think that One World is a great comp is that the 3 women who do make it to the end are all competent players in their own right, and just one was viewed as way better. Sabrina wins almost any other season that she plays. Shaheen can win on almost any, and maybe he can, and maybe he's the one who wins this one because it's a different jury, right? But the way that the vibe feels is all the people on the bottom are just getting picked off one by one, and this group at the top is going to run the game, and whoever is right about their game is going to be the winner. And Ryan historically does not like those seasons because they're not really entertaining, and the people on the bottom can never galvanize and make a move.
Yeah, the problem is with all of those seasons, you have a bunch of idiots on the bottom who don't make a move.
And for me, watching it live, because like we haven't had a season like this really since I've been watching live, not quite like this. And to see it live, I get to think, what is going on in their heads? Like, it might not be a good reason, but what is the reason they're not doing this? And that's what's fascinating for me. So Ryan, he may have done this song and dance already, but for those of us who came in the Tony era of Survivor,
I think the most recent season was Ghost Island, would probably be the closest comparison, where you have like Wendell and Dominic. It's like they're winning. One of them is winning.
Yeah, and then Laurel not doing anything.
Yeah,
So I would agree that is the closest comp, but this even feels different from that. But I agree to a certain point.
Ryan, I'm going to tweak your claim there. You said we have a bunch of idiots on the bottom. I'm going to tweak that and say we have a lot of misguided people in the middle. Because I think the people at the bottom want to make a move.
Sure.
You had people who are definitely interested in it, but there's a very key group in the middle that needs to commit to be able to help get that to happen.
Well, at this point, if you're in the middle, you're on the bottom. Like, you're all idiots. Get off my TV screen. I never want to see any of you play again. I'm so annoyed. Let's jump into this episode because I want to be done with this one. Spoiler alert. 3, 2, 1. We're going to lose Mary tonight. And we'll get more into that when we get to the end with like stats and stuff, because there's a couple interesting ones there. But yeah, anything else before we jump into the episode proper?
Nope, it was another race to the bottom.
No, we're at the bottom and we just stayed there.
Fair enough.
There was nowhere to go but up, and we didn't move.
So what did the people on the top do to accomplish this? That's really all we're going to be able to talk about tonight.
So after the last episode, Mary is going to come up with a pitch to everybody. She's like, hey, keep me. Let's get rid of Joe. And I'm like, yes, this is a good idea. And let's do that.
So, after a great start.
We talk to she talks to like everyone. We're going to get her talking to Camilla, Mitch, Kyle, Shaheen, every single person besides Joe and Eva about making this move. And they're all be like, yeah, that's a good idea. And then we don't do it. Hey, that was our strategy talk for the episode. Thanks for coming, everybody.
There's a little bit more sprinkled in.
Like a smidge. Like,
I'm
exaggerating
in there.
I'm exaggerating, but not by much. That's the sad thing, is I'm barely exaggerating.
Oh, reductivist, but not overly reductivist. We're not losing too many significant digits here. I mean, Mary makes a pitch. It's a good pitch. Mitch doesn't listen. Camilla has always been on board with this. And I think the closest examination after we just, kind of yada yada through immunity challenge so we know where the pieces lie, that's really all we're going to be able to talk about from a strategic standpoint. So, I mean, at this point, is there anything that we even need to really dive into strategically on the front end of the immunity challenge? I guess prior to the journey, I guess.
I got like 2 things. But yeah, that's the episode in a nutshell. Mary makes a good pitch. Nobody bites. Maybe some of them wanted to. They just couldn't get the numbers. I could see that being the case for Camilla, but we don't know for sure. And nothing happens. Mary's pissed, just like me, that nothing is happening. So she starts chopping all the coconuts and basically just eating them out of house and home. She's like, I'm not getting picked to go on a reward. I'm going to eat coconuts. And it makes people mad, but at the same time, I'm like, you go, girl.
You know it's bad when Ryan is siding with the person from Philly.
Who's actively, making probably a bad social decision.
It probably is, but at the same time, like, nothing is happening. I get it. I sympathize greatly. But yeah, probably not a great move, but I don't know if it helped or hurt her at this point. Honestly, be like, hey, take me to the end. I pissed everyone off by eating all the coconuts.
That's what, people should be thinking here.
And I guess the big like sticking point of this episode is Kyle. He's just emotionally struggling so hard with betraying somebody, either at some point, maybe Camilla, maybe Joe, Ava. He's got to betray somebody, and he doesn't want to go through with it.
But
Welcome to Survivor, Kyle.
He says it like he's made a decision, though. And I know we're not there yet, but this is all kind of just the same thing. So might as well talk about it now. He comes to the conclusion. He hems and haws, and then finally ends up just being like, you know what? No, like if I have to make a decision, I want to play with Camilla because I want it to be one of the two of us at the end. Boom, there you go. Let's go.
Vote out Joe. Oh, no, we're not.
But for Kyle, like if Mary going home sucks for Camilla, we're getting ahead of ourselves. So let's just we'll get there. We'll get there.
So we get a journey. One person gets to go on a journey. They end up doing a rock draw to decide, which is probably smart because Mary wants to go, obviously, and everybody should not want Mary to go. You should probably go just so you have the control. Everyone volunteers. We draw rocks. Fine, fair enough. Eva gets to go. The person with all the advantages gets to go. So the challenge is she has to stack blocks, kind of like a circular house of cards kind of thing. And if she gets it up to 4 levels, she gets her vote back. She loses her vote, but she gets it to 4, she gets her vote back. If she stacks all the way up to 8, she gets goddamn knowledge is power. And I looked over at Derek when this happened, and his face was just buried in his hands. And that's how I felt internally as well. It's just like, production, F off with this crap. Stop trying to make this happen.
Stop trying to make fetch happen. We've attempted knowledge is power one time, unsuccessfully. LOL, Liana to Xander. And every other time the cast has been like, ugh,
No.
ugh, ew, gross.
And I think the worst part about it is, you know, regardless of who you're rooting for on this season or what you think of the advantages that exist right now in the game, because honestly, there haven't been a whole lot that are in play. Let's picture an alternate world here where Mary does go on this journey and she does successfully get the knowledge is power. There is this group and a narrative for the entire season that is just gonna get completely flipped. And yes, might that be entertaining, and might Ryan prefer something like that?
Not in this case. Not in this case. If knowledge and power is what is used, no, I don't want it.
But Ryan's like, not like this.
Not like this.
Not like this.
The point is, these people's entire games and strategy is, you know, revolving around just kind of this core group and stability. And you throw knowledge as power in there, and, you know, let's just say Mary comes in, steals the idol from Eva. Eva goes home, or Joe goes home, and
That's garbage.
And all of a sudden, the end of season 48 is completely different and is not a reflection anymore of the entire season up until this point. So we don't, you know, obviously we all know knowledge is power is garbage, but, you know, there's just one extra thing to say about it.
And because I am, again, fairly positive on the season, and it's not the most entertaining, but it's fascinating to me. What would really hurt about knowledge is power going to, let's say, Mary or Camilla or Mitch, right? Right now, the alliance in season 48 on top is as strong as any alliance I think that has ever happened in the game, truly, because they have every reason to somewhat turn on each other, and they're not doing it. If production can just throw in like the stupid thing that can break the strongest thing that the players can do on their own, that hurts me. Like that annoys me to no end. Like Eva did the work to get the idol from Star, the social work and whatever, and then she gets the safety without power by winning immunity. She's in the super strong alliance, and then knowledge is power. It undoes everything that she did. That on a rock draw of all things. Like I'm with Ryan. Knowledge is power is not the way to fix this season or to shake this up. But that doesn't negate what you're saying, Josh. You're absolutely right. It would change the trajectory of the season if this is anybody except Eva or potentially Joe.
I hope so. On the On Fire podcast, Rachel from last season, our winner from last season, is the co-host. I really hope she's one of us and just like rips Jeff apart for doing this stupid advantage. She probably won't because it's CBS, but I hope she tries to get some shots about how knowledge power is a terrible advantage.
She's found some subtle ways, I think, of basically disagreeing with either Jeff or production or something like that, but they've been very, very, very subtle. Or it's just kind of like oh, you know, fair disagreement type of thing. It's like, oh, that's kind of like what you're interested in, or like what you find entertaining, those types of things. Yeah, that will be interesting to see if she actually says anything.
New life goal for me. I want to win Survivor, obviously. I don't know if this would ever happen. I want to get invited to co-host On Fire with Jeff Probst for a season. And then I could just roast Jeff all season long for his terrible ideas. I don't think I will ever get invited to do that, even if I do win, because all they have to do is look into me, my background a little bit, and listen to a little bit of this podcast and be like, nope, we cannot let this guy get anywhere near a mic. But I hope I could somehow pull that off.
As someone who's like favorable in Jeff, but I don't like production Jeff all the time, I get worried that what I've said on this podcast has put me on a do not cast list, which would make me so sad, because there are plenty of players who have gone out there and had these same opinions and weren't brave enough to put them out there. Don't we want brave, bold people, Jeff? Cast me. But
yeah, cast me, Jeff. I'll tell you you're wrong to your face.
Ryan, I hope this happens for you.
That would be the best.
Not on my season, though.
Well, yeah. Well,
no.
If we're on the same season, I'm winning. So Eva's going to get her vote and stop. And she's not going to go for knowledge is power, which is absolutely right for her.
Solid move.
And she goes back to camp and tells everybody the truth, because why wouldn't she?
Yeah, and there's 0 advantages in the game that aren't owned by her, so there's 0 incentive to go any further than 4 rows.
I'm going to knowledge is power myself.
Immunity challenge. In a fun one, Camilla pulls it off. Camilla gets the win. Good for her. And she is going to take Mitch and Eva on reward. Mitch, totally makes sense. Eva, I thought, was questionable, but she's going to tell us she wanted to make Eva and Joe feel comfortable and not talk strategy and reward really at all, besides like, yeah, we're voting Mary. And just make everyone feel safe and secure so they can vote out Joe. Would have been great if we'd voted out Joe.
Yeah, Camilla sets the table nicely here. Ryan and I had that discussion during the commercial break. We're like, Mitch, we understand why you don't do Kyle, but why Eva? And then we talked about maybe it is to make them feel comfortable so they can take a shot at Joe. And then she confirmed that. And we're like, good, okay. We can get on board with this. There might be some weird better answer out there, but if this is your goal today, and I think this does speak to the fact that Camilla's trying to do something. So as much as we can be frustrated with the people on the bottom for not doing this, it really doesn't seem like Camilla is a part of this problem.
Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked if it's just like the votes weren't going to happen for some dumb reason. Kyle probably, I don't know.
As a side little, consultant point of view, regardless of how confident you are in your ability to win a challenge, while you're still on the beach and before you even go to a challenge, every single time you're gonna go to a challenge, have it in your head who you would take.
Yeah,
there's no downside. There's no downside to being prepped with that kind of decision. Be prepared to pick 2 people, 3 people, 4 people, whatever it might be.
Have a pecking order.
Just because if you do end up, if it is a challenge that you end up, winning, being really strong at, whatever it might be, you want to be picking the right people. It's a big decision.
And you have nothing but time on the island, You have days where nothing happens. Think about it. We're going to get Kyle telling Camilla that he's actually a lawyer, not a teacher. So we'll see if that comes into play at all.
It was funny that Camilla made a comment, whoa, who's the lawyer? So they're playing spot a lawyer, which I know would be a confessional that I would make on the island. You guys be like, oh, don't Bruce and Couture this, Derek. You're obsessing over finding the lawyer. I'll be like, yes, but only on the inside.
Cast Derek on a season with 17 lawyers. See what happens.
No.
I vote for this. This sounds like a great
idea.
Who
are all lying about being a lawyer.
Yes. And Derek is convinced there's only one lawyer, and he's trying to find it. But he's like, there's reasons for all 17 of these people to be a lawyer.
And I'm talking to the lawyers about it, and they're all like, oh, he's on to me. Oh, he's on to me. Oh, Derek's on to me. This is my nightmare, Jeff.
Lawyer Island, Survivor 51.
What happens when you put 17 lawyers and a banker on an island? Let's find out.
One Derek versus 17 lawyers. It's like the gorilla again.
Yeah.
Oh no.
So Mary tells Joe that she's voting for him, and it makes Joe paranoid about an idol situation. So he's going to talk to Mitch, Kyle, and Shaheen. Like, should we cast a vote on somebody else just in case? And they're all going to talk him out of it. But I think Joe is fairly paranoid. And, he has a good point. Why not throw a hinky vote on somebody? But, Joe, you don't need to tell anybody else that. Because, he has this conversation with Kyle and Mitch first. Okay, but, Joe, let's see you go through with this. Who are you putting the hinky vote on? You can't put it on Camilla. You're not going to put it on somebody in your lines. That leaves Mitch. You're having this conversation with Mitch. No, just do it. Put a hinky vote on Mitch, just in case, and don't say anything. That would be the right move. Joe, just shut your pie hole and throw the hinky vote out on Mitch. That would have been totally fine.
One of the more memorable ones, as much as I hate him, Nick Wilson did this in Winners at War.
Yep.
He threw out a very well-placed hinky vote without telling anyone to save himself.
F. Nick Wilson.
Yes, this is anti-Nick Wilson podcast.
Yep.
But that was a smart move at the time.
Yep.
Joe, channel your inner Nick.
No.
Joe, just make a good move.
Joe, channel your inner Teresa T. Bird Cooper.
There we go.
She did it first.
I just wanted to aggravate Ryan a little bit.
Yeah, he's not aggravated enough.
I know he's on edge, so like I don't even need to put a quarter in. I can do one of those fake quarters and just like pull it out with the string and just keep winding
I'm
him
wound
up.
up. You're gonna get me going. I'm wound up. But yeah, it does make Shaheen in particular tell us, like, I'm a little worried about working with Joe now. I'm definitely gonna vote him out tonight. Oh no.
Well, yeah, his main point is that, Shaheen has had 2 separate times where he's been in danger and getting votes, and you don't know, how many votes is going to be enough for you to go home in this game. And now Joe, who's won 3 immunities, is, kind of not really in danger. You just have the one obvious person who's going out saying they're just going to put their one singular vote on you. And you're ready to flip on other people? This, go back to what I was talking about with Kyle and being like, hey, you made the decision. You value being with Camilla more than these other guys. Cool. There you go. Make the move. Shaheen, you are telling us in confessional, you are making that decision of, maybe you should just make that move. This is your decision. Go. Do it.
Yep. I hear what you guys are saying. This is why I think this episode might be important. These are the things that are going to pay dividends, I think, down the road, because they wouldn't need to show us Joe's paranoia if it didn't have some kind of effect. Now, it might do nothing. Joe might make it to the final 3 and win. But this could be Shaheen's final tribal council pitch. Joe, when you felt even a little bit threatened, you cracked. You started to prove that you aren't as honorable and full of integrity as you think you were. I had to show trust. I didn't freak out. I did play all sides a little bit, but ultimately I stuck with loyalty, so I was able to kind of have my cake and eat it too. I wonder if this will pay some level of dividends in the future.
It could. It could also be we need to get this episode to 90 minutes and we have nothing to work with.
Yeah, I doubt it'll come into play because Joe didn't throw out a hinky vote. So he didn't end up actually cracking. So, I mean, maybe Shaheen says something, but I don't think he'd really do anything.
So we're going to go to tribal council. It's 6 votes for Mary, 1 vote for Joe. Jesus Christ was my note. The most honorable part of the episode, David is going to stand in respect to Mary, and it's super cringe, as the kids say.
Handsome Squidward.
He's had the same look on his face for 2 straight tribal councils.
So with Mary going out here, this ties Vula for the earliest extinction of a tribe at 7th place. We've had 4 tribes do this. We had Oolong back in Palau, Stephanie LaGrossa being the last one standing, probably the most famous one.
And honestly, more impressive because that was a 2-tribe season.
Yep, that was there. There were 9 people on that tribe, and the rest were all 6 tribes, 6-person tribes. So yeah, Oolong's the most impressive, unimpressive, whatever, however you want to put it.
The worst.
The worst. Oolong is the worst. But we also have the Beauty tribe, a Solana from Cagayan, with Jeffra being the last one standing. And then most recently in 45, we had Lululemon tribe with Emily Flippin being the last one standing. And now Vula joins that bunch of winners, with 7th place being the highest placement of any of those tribes.
And I feel badly. If I'm looking at the Vula tribe, I feel so badly for Justin.
Yep.
I mean, Kevin played himself right out of the game, but I feel like Justin could have done real damage on a normal tribe on a regular season of Survivor. Dare I say, bring Justin back. Honestly, you could have an entire season, Survivor, Cedric's victims.
So Mary goes home here. It should have been Joe.
Yeah. I don't have any notes because yes, clearly it is supposed to be Joe here. It should be Joe. I do think I don't remember, one of you two kind of criticized Mitch earlier. I'm not going to criticize Mitch because I think that he was willing to make a move here. I think it came down to either Kyle or Shaheen, and neither of them committed to doing this, and it just fizzled. It fell apart, and they all think that they have a good enough game to win at the end. And that's just the biggest issue with, I feel like we've actually seen this quite a few times here in the new era where people are just okay because they just are confident in their game and then they get second or third.
And they're in a tight 4. Like I said, fire making. is a big aspect here.
Austin versus D, and that's a good example of where like they were both kind of right. A 3 versus 5 final vote is close. Kyle obviously thinks that he's doing better jury management than Joe. I think that's the only way we can really attack this. Like, okay, it's obviously good for Joe if Joe doesn't go home. I'm mixed on whether or not Eva should be trying to separate herself from Joe, because they might see him as her meat shield and give him all the credit for her game, along with the fact that Star will never vote for her because Star is going to be bitter that she took the idol from her and like never did anything with it, or at least didn't help Star's position in the game with it. Kyle and Shaheen both think that they can beat Joe. I don't know enough because I don't see the jury vote at the end telling me that they're wrong. Mitch, Camilla, and Mary, man, if we're getting wicked cute, maybe Camilla should have given Mary the necklace and said, Kyle, make a decision because I'm next. Like, if you're going to play with me now, not later, because with the game that I have played for your benefit and mine to a certain extent, but it's less visible, I need Mary here. I need her here. I don't trust her, but I need her here.
Ultimatums aren't good on Survivor, but I do think she could have pushed harder to make Kyle flip. Like, we need to do this. We have to do this. Let's do this. So I don't know what happened, but yeah, this was the wrong move. The wrongest of wrong moves.
I'm gonna put more blame. It's weird because I think for the motivation and what they're looking for, like, I do want to put more blame on Kyle just because he vocalized to us that he wants it to be him or Camilla to win it in the end. And the best way to do that is to take out the biggest threats now when we're at final 7. Like, come on. However, I do think that Kyle can beat anyone in the end. I think all Kyle has to do is make it to the end and he wins. Now, Shaheen, I think Shaheen has to take out a lot of people. So I'm actually going to put more blame on Shaheen than on Kyle for that. Either way, it doesn't matter because it should have been Joe. Whoever ends up making that final decision, it should be Joe.
What did social media say? I would love to know.
So according to social media, if you add up all of our votes across social media, about 94% of people said no. And there was a decent amount of votes.
No, the wrong person.
The wrong person went home.
Yeah. Good. Like, thank you, social media.
Yeah, and like we definitely got more participation out of these polls than what we usually do. So like this was very overwhelmingly,
I think the audience was pissed and got on Twitter or whatever, Blue Sky, whatever social media they had. I just wanted to validate their feelings. Like, is everyone else as pissed as me? And yes, pretty much everyone except Derek is as pissed as you. Derek is the 6%.
It's just fascinating. I didn't say that it's great Survivor gameplay. I just said it's it is great Survivor gameplay for Joe. This is like the example of like high social gameplay, low strategic gameplay that can dominate a season. It's just fascinating to watch in real time. So I'm trying to appreciate it for what it is. I'll cite a very strange story from my past. When I went and did a safari in the Serengeti, it's like an 8-hour drive to get out there. And do you guys want to know what makes the Serengeti, one of the things that makes it so special? It's flat. There's nothing out there. So you're just driving and there's hundreds and hundreds of miles of just grass. But when you're there, it's like, oh, this is like the flattest place on earth. You need to kind of enjoy it for what it is until you can get to where you can see the animals. You can see the rhinos and the hippos, the elephants, the flamingos. You can go to Ngorongoro Crater. I think that part of the season is yet to come. We're going to start seeing the compies. We're going to see Ngorongoro Crater. We're going to see the dormant volcanoes. We're going to see the hyenas eating a water buffalo corpse. But we have to get through these hundreds of miles of flat plains first.
A, I don't need to enjoy anything. B,
you don't need
I think we're going to drive off a cliff.
Yeah, you don't need to enjoy anything, but that is how I am choosing to approach this. Like, we need to enjoy this for what it is in order to try and get to the meat and potatoes, and who knows what those meat and potatoes are.
Ryan, it smells like copium to me.
Ryan is instead picturing the sandworm in Tremors going off the cliff, just...
It's the flat Nevada desert, and we're going off a cliff. Or we're walking through Mordor and breathing in volcanic ash, and everything sucks.
Oh, Ryan, I don't recall the taste of food.
Yeah, I don't recall the taste of food.
The sound of water.
I got nothing. That's this season. Let's get into best and worst player of the episode. Josh, kick us off. Who's your best player?
This is weird just because of the final result of the episode, but I am going to go with Camilla just because I think she did as much as she could. Could have she pushed Kyle a little bit more and maybe gone to the brink of an ultimatum? Technically, yes. Is that the best thing for her game? I don't know. Fast forward to our rank downs, I think that she still can win. So I'm, not going to say that that's a deal breaker for this award for me when being able to give it to her. And there's just not enough here for me to give it to the two people who benefit most from this vote at the top, being Joe and Eva. I just didn't think there was enough for them to get this award. So going Camilla.
I'm going Eva. She prevented anything crazy from happening with the journey. She went. She got lucky on that, but she got her vote back, stopped anyone else from getting the advantage. The knowledge is power, ruin her game. She held strong, got out Mary. It's Eva.
Eva nullified Kip. Knowledge is power. That's enough for me here. Honorable mention to Joe for unintentionally converting Kyle into someone who doesn't want to vote him out when it perhaps behooves him to do so. It's Eva, though.
For worst player, I'm going to give mine to Kyle. I'm criticizing everyone on the bottom for not making this move, but I'm going to go Kyle the most because he seems like he was the most emotionally affected by it, which is not what you want in Survivor. You just met these people. Think about your family back home, and if Joe doesn't want to be friends with you after the game because you voted it out, well, fine. You go make different friends. There's lots of people on this planet to make friends with. So I'm gonna give mine to Kyle.
I'm gonna give mine to Mitch for one reason and one reason only. He can no longer win the game. I think definitively Mitch loses here. Camilla at least tried to do the right thing. She laid some framework. She won immunity. She had some conversations. I don't see enough, because I still see a path to the end for Kyle and Shaheen. And when you get down there, everything becomes tighter quarters. And I'm not ready to start dinging Kyle and Shaheen for not making a move on Joe, especially if they've got a better take on the pulse of the jury than we do. So I'm not ready yet. I'm going to give it to Mitch simply because he can no longer win the game.
I was debating between Mitch and Shaheen for this, just because I think that they're the ones that are hurt the most by just non-action right now. I think I'm going to lean towards Mitch, though, just because before I had him last week in my can't win just grouping, but with, enough action, he could have crawled out of, that and could still have won the game. He just needed to really be on the offense. And that's the exact opposite of what's going on here. He's not playing offense at all. He's not even playing defense. He's just on the sideline, just watching the game go by. And
ride the bench.
And that's how you become a 0 vote finalist. And now, he could have beaten Mary and then had a fighting chance against someone like Shaheen, maybe a fighting chance against Camilla. But now you don't have that person that you can for sure beat. Now he has to beat both of them and get to the end with both of them. So I am going to go with Mitch then.
All right, Derek, who's going next?
Well, I'm going to go with a pattern, and I'm going to say Mitch goes next. Okay. Let's just finish the hat trick and take out the three people who were very clearly at the bottom.
Josh?
I don't think that's going to be how it goes, just because up until this point, it was a 6. And it was always talked about as the 6. And yes, there was a 4 within the 6. However, I want to believe that people are actually going to, act in their own best interest and be able to say, I went with the 6 the entire way, and then, did what I needed to do to set myself up for final tribal council. So I'm going Joe.
I would also like to believe that, Josh, but I don't. I think the most boring thing is going to happen, and so I have Mitch.
You can tell, Ryan and I are in the same place, but we are in different moods about it.
To be fair, I thought it was going to be Mitch this week. So what do I know?
I had Mary this week. I was right.
I had Mary as well.
All right. Let's get into who can't win this game. Jank downs, stank downs, rank downs, and lank downs. Josh, kick us off.
I have literally no change from last week. I had Mary at the bottom. And, all you have to do is just delete the last spot on the list, and my list stays the same. So to recap, it is still from the top: Kyle, Joe, Eva, Camilla, Shaheen, Mitch. I think the biggest thing is, yes, Kyle isn't, making these big moves, but he's being very calculated with it based off of how he sees his jury setup going. And I don't it's something just tells me that people are not going to respect Joe and Eva's game. Like it's going to be like, yeah, kind of like respect, but not enough for me to give you Soul Survivor and $1 million. So if it is, Kyle, Joe, and Eva as the final three, let's just say, I think Kyle wins that.
What were the listeners?
Oh, yes. The listeners from last week, and thank you for submitting, everyone who did, had Joe at the top, followed by Kyle, Eva, Shaheen, Camilla, Mitch, and Mary. So across the board, all of us agreed that Mary was in last. So of course she went home.
Mm-hmm. Logic. Okay, so I have a little bit of mix up on mine. I dropped Kyle down and I moved Joe and Eva up, and then I swapped Camilla and Shaheen. So my order is Joe, Eva, Kyle, Camilla, and my two who can't win are Shaheen and Mitch. Who were your two can't wins, Josh?
My two can't wins were Shaheen and Mitch, but I've had Shaheen and Mitch, lower down for a while. I think that Shaheen's a little misguided with where he thinks his game is at, and I've just had Camilla one step up from him just because I think that she's going to have a lot better story. Like let's say it is Camilla, Shaheen, and Mitch at the end. I think that Camilla has a much better story to pitch than Shaheen does.
I actually had a couple shakeups this week. I remember telling you guys last week I put Joe and Eva on a little bit of a probationary period, and I saw Eva talking down to people again. I know she was just being honest about the advantages, but I feel like it can come across a certain kind of way. We saw Joe acting a little bit paranoid. I can see that coming across a certain kind of way. So starting from the top, I now have Kyle. I've dropped Joe down to 2 because despite his behavior, if they make him public enemy number 1 and they don't take him out, that is very dangerous at the end. Just ask Rachel. Then I have Shaheen. So I'm higher on Shaheen's game than either of you guys are. I think he's played nice with everyone for long enough to where he has a fighting chance, especially if people do disrespect Joe's game or if they don't have respect for his game. After Shaheen, I have Eva, and then I have Camilla and Mitch. There is a world where I think Camilla rises above Eva at the end if something happens where they end up in the final 3 together where Camilla's game becomes visible. But again, this is just based on optics today. So right now, Camilla and Mitch are my 2 can't wins if the game ended today.
Okay, last thing I'm going to do is check in with the survivor pool. I had hope for a minute. I thought I was going to win, but I didn't. I had Mary. I'm out.
Rest in peace, Ryan. Yeah.
That means Derek wins in between the 3 of us. Derek's the last consultant standing.
Yep. Congratulations, Derek. It's disgusting, but that's 3 in a row. 3
that's
seasons
4 in a row, sir. That's 4.
Oh my gosh, that is 4 in a row. This is garbage.
Agreed.
Who thought about doing this stupid game?
It wasn't me.
It was me, I know. But maybe more importantly, because Derek, I'm going to have you continue your game because we still have listeners. We have listeners still. So before I get into that, I do want to give a shout out to 2 people who are now in the graveyard. So first of all, kind of from last week / this week, Rachel from Spotify. She ran out of people, so she couldn't pick anyone this week. So thank you for playing along, Rachel. Rest in peace. And then there is Malia, I think. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. Also from Spotify. They picked Mary this week. So
out of necessity, if memory serves.
It was, I believe it was their last person available. So also rest in peace.
I know what that's like.
Yeah. Also rest in peace there. Now, there's still a handful of listeners that are out there. I will say a couple of them are out of people as well, but there are, I believe, 2 listeners left, maybe 3, who do have at least one person that they can choose. So I would like Derek to continue playing to see if our listeners can beat Derek.
I got one name left, and it's Shaheen. So if there's people out there with more than one left, they could take me down here.
Yeah, there is for sure a Joe out there, and there's for sure a Kyle out there that I know of.
Okay.
We'll teaser for you for next week.
We'll see if one of the fans can take down the consultants. You got one left to beat. So good luck, everybody. I hope you take down Derek. It'll be funny. I'm salty.
I'm here for peak comedy, and I'm happy that I won again.
Well, just think, Ryan, you could have been out for like 9 weeks.
I could have.
Josh, who did you lose on again?
Justin.
Oh no!
Like, come on.
That you get to play on Survivor, Cedric's victims.
Oh.
Yay.
All right, let's get into some questions from our audience.
Yes, thank you once again to anyone who reached out to us with questions, comments, things that they want us to talk about. And if you want any of your questions talked about, feel free to comment on Spotify, reply on any of our social media, DMs, any of that stuff. We'll find it and we will talk about it here. First up, we have Dawson on Spotify. And they said, in honor of Star's rap, what has been your favorite musical moment on Survivor?
Can we count Ponderosa videos?
Ooh, yes.
Oh, yes,
Yes.
please do.
Because Chris Noble's rap is pretty amazing, but the number one, what was their band? Were they the Dragons?
Yes.
It was JT, Courtney, and Coach's music video they did was actually pretty epic. So that, I think, is the number one musical moment on Survivor if we count Ponderosa.
I'll give my real answer, which is episode 1 of Survivor, actually. Bye Bye Blues from Sonia. It's one of the, weirdly enough, like one of the most touching moments in the history of the show, and they got it on episode 1 from old Sonia R.I.P., who I believe passed away recently.
Yep.
But here's a subtle one. The time Penner threatened to sing happy birthday when production wouldn't give Lisa some space.
It was Lisa, it was Dana.
Dana, when production would not give Dana some space.
But that didn't happen on air.
It didn't happen on air, but that's just, it's involving music. So I'll throw that out there. But Sonia is my real answer.
I will, it's probably not like a big key one, but I do it just because it's a little behind the scenes. I do really like the Worlds Apart reunion one. So I'll go with that. I don't know if it's necessarily my favorite, but I think it's a funny one.
Yeah, so for those of you who don't remember, at Worlds Apart, they brought out like a cupcake for Rodney because he was so mad about having to do dishes on his birthday. So Jeff brings out a cupcake for him. And then the cast starts singing Happy Birthday, and they didn't have the rights to that. So they was like, oh no, we're going to get fined.
The most impactful one was probably Chase Rice on the reunion show, because now he's a big country star.
He would say that had nothing to do with it. I know he's been asked about that.
Well, he might say he's nothing to do with it, but performing an original song on network television before streaming really picked up can't hurt.
Sure.
It's not a zero effect.
But you're all wrong. It is 100% the Dragons.
Go watch it. Go watch that.
It's art.
All right, so thank you, Dawson, for that question. We also have Claire on Spotify asking, do you think future seasons will be able or even want to replicate this all honor and integrity, big players to the end game? Or do you think this could only happen with this exact cast? It is pretty nice not having to worry about getting a total dud winner.
So, yeah, I think if we get like a bunch of super fans on a season, we're not going to get this. I think we have a good amount of like non-super fans, just more casual fans who are on this season. So yeah, it could happen again. I don't want it to happen again at this point. I don't know if production wants it to happen again, but it's possible.
I think it's fine like once every 10 seasons or so to have like this type of alliance happen, just because it's unique. We don't really see it, and I think that there's a lot to analyze about it, even if it might not be the most exciting thing episode to episode. But yeah, it needs to be sparingly, please.
For me, it can happen. It should happen again. The reason I like that it's happening, it forces the super fans to go into a season to account for something like this and make sure you break it up sooner than the Camillas, Mitches, Stars, and Marys of the world are. A lot of casts do break these sorts of things up early. Sometimes it gets broken up in the pre-merge. If you let it fester, or I guess if you let it cure, if you let it harden, you can't beat it. Even if you make it to the end, it will be as a goat, led to slaughter. So, super fans out there, I think it has to happen, and take a lesson. Be scared. If you see this, be scared.
Be afraid.
Very afraid.
And then finally, we did have a question on Blue Sky from Sophie, saying, with the amount Survivor reminds us about Kyle and Camilla, do you think they're either going to do a big move together, or are they going to vote each other out? With the Kyle confessionals, I almost feel like they are setting him up to betray her, but I'm not good at reading the edit.
What's the most boring answer? That's the answer.
The most boring answer is that Camilla goes home and Kyle goes to the fore with the strong.
Yeah.
The most boring answer is they don't, like, neither of those two. They don't go together on a move, and they don't vote each other out.
Yeah. Camilla gets picked off at 5, and Kyle can't do anything about it. That's my answer.
The non-pessimistic answer from me, because I do think that just the backstory that we're getting with Kyle and Camilla tells me I think one of the two of them is going to win. I don't know which one, but I think one of the two of them are going to win just because it just it feels like we're getting a lot more character development out of the two of them recently here in the post merge. So I'm going to go with the fact that they're going to make a move together. And I think it's going to be this next episode when Joe goes home.
The only sweater thread I'm going to pull on from the edit is Vula 2.0. If Kyle, Camilla, Joe, and Shaheen make it to Final Four, man, does Joe go home and Kyle wins?
I think there's a 0% chance that happens, or near 0% chance that
I'm just saying that's the only sweater thread from earlier in the season that leads me to think that something might get shaken up. I don't have any sweater threads left to pull on. So we'll see what happens. I can see Kyle winning. At this point, I really don't see Camilla winning.
Mm-hmm.
I'd love to be proven wrong. That's all I'll say.
All right. Anything else, guys?
Nope.
Let's get into social media.
Yeah, like I said, if you want to submit any questions, comments, interact with us during the episodes, anything like that, go ahead and do it at Castaway Pod on various social medias. If you want to check out some video, YouTube, Facebook, TikTok is Castaway Consultants. And then we have a website, which is thecastawayconsultants.com, where I post Ryan's blogs, and you can search all the episodes on there.
And submit your link downs and your pool picks if you're still alive.
All right. This has been the Castaway Consultants.
Got nothing else for you.
Good night.